This is how to loom a mini teddy bear, and you're going to need your little flower loom or a 12 peg loom, and it's pretty similar to making a larger size. And your supply list is going to be 12 peg loom, looming hook, crochet hook, crafter's needle, polyfil, scrap yarn, 2 small rhinestones, and ribbon. First, you want to do a drawstring cast on of all 12 pegs, and you're going to work flat, so you're going to work backwards. Go ahead and toss every other peg over to get a cast on of all pegs. Now working flat, you want to knit 12 pegs for a total of 5 rows. And this is starting with the head, so we're doing the back of the head right now. So this is row 1 that we're working on. Now you want to make sure that the knit is loose. When you go to pull the bottom loop over, pull it up, over, and back, and that loosens up the loop you just made. And you want to keep going. This will be row 2, and continue on. Once we're done with that, we're going to knit 3, and then we're going to start the ear section, and that will be the next 2 pegs. And you're going to knit the next 2 pegs flat for 5 rows. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now you want to knit 2, which is your space in between your ears. And then you're going to start on your next ear, and you're going to knit the 2 pegs for 5 rows again. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And to finish the row, knit 3 pegs. Now you want to knit 12 pegs for 3 rows, and this will be the front of the face. So this is row 1 of the first 3. And then row 2. And then row 3. Now we want to do an internal decrease from 12 pegs to 6 pegs. So you go in and you move every other peg over to the next one, and then you go in and you knit all the pegs. Now I'm moving the pegs over because you're knitting. It makes it harder to do how I normally do an internal decrease. So when moving every other peg over, and then to go in before you knit, I've been moving all my loops over. But mostly what you're wanting to do is make sure that you go from 12 pegs to 6 pegs. You can do it the way I'm doing it here. You can go in and do every other peg and then knit and then bring them together and tighten, or you can take all the pegs off, put them on the hook, and make sure that when you put them back on that you have 2 loops on each peg and then just knit it. There's a variety of ways of doing this. You're just wanting to decrease by every other peg to get down to a total of 6 pegs. I will be introducing a rabbit mini, a cat mini, a dragon mini, a dog mini, and a elephant mini, and maybe a couple of other mini stuffed animals, because mostly what you're doing is just halving everything when you have the amount. Now you want to go in and make sure you tighten up your loops so that your snout area gets a real defined section. Now you want to knit the 6 pegs for 3 rows. And then you'll want to do a drawstring cast off. Send the needle through every single loop. And then you're going to want to tighten and sew up the snout. And then you want to sew up the ears and close off the back of the head. I'll show you how to close off the back of the head next. And I don't show how to sew up the ears. If you need an example of how to sew up the ears, go to the How to Loom teddy bear. But it's pretty self-explanatory on how to go in and sew up your ears. I'm going to close off the back of the head. And then after you get done doing this, you'll want to stuff the head. Great thing about the minis is it doesn't take a whole lot of polyfill. And when you're done sewing, go ahead and stuff the head. Now we're going to work on the body. And so you're going to drawstring cast on 12 pegs. And next what you want to do is you want to work circularly, and you want to knit 12 pegs for a total of 10 rows. So as you can see, I've crossed over and am continuing around, going towards the left, going clockwise. And that's row 1, and continue circularly. Next you're going to purl for 12 pegs. Basically you're going to purl a row. And the reason for purling a row is it helps to bend the body so that you have a flat bottom area for your stuffed animal to sit. And it also gives you a very easy guideline on where to sew your bottom legs. Once you're done with that, you're going to knit 12 pegs for 2 rows. Once you're done with that, you're going to go in and you're going to decrease every other peg. But instead of knitting, you're going to take the first peg, move it over to the next, and toss the bottom loop over. And the reason for this is so that you don't have a whole lot of extra bulky yarn at the bottom. It gives it a flatter appearance. So go ahead and decrease by every other peg and toss the bottom loop over. And then what we'll want to do is a drawstring cast off. So go ahead and thread your needle and send it through every single loop. Okay, flip inside out and close off. Flip right side out and go ahead and stuff your body. Next we're going to be working the legs. Excuse me, we're actually working yeah, we're working the legs. So go ahead and E-rope cast on 10, and we're going to work flat, so you're going to knit 10 pegs for 3 rows. Which is going to be your foot area. Now we're going to decrease by 1 on each end, so go ahead and move the end loops over one peg on each side, and then you're going to knit 8 pegs. Make sure you toss both loops over the top on the ends. Okay, and you're going to decrease by 1 on each end again. And now you're going to knit 6 pegs. Make sure you toss those two bottom loops on the ends. Now you want to knit 6 pegs for 5 rows, and this is the actual upper part of the leg. Next, we're going to want to cast off using our crochet hook. So place the first loop on, wrap the crochet hook, and pull through. Then take the next loop off, pull through, wrap, and pull through. And take the next loop off. If you need a slowed down version of this, you can go to my techniques video to see how to cast off with a crochet hook. Snip the end and pull through. Now, I've chosen to do an E-wrap cast on, which means I'll need to tighten my cast on, but if you don't feel proficient in tightening the cast on, you don't feel comfortable with it, you can do a drawstring cast on like I've done for the most part on this video, and you can just pull it to tighten if that's what you choose to do, or you can do the tightening the cast on. Mostly you want to be able to tighten the bottom. And you want to sew up the bottom, and you want to sew up the front, and you want to make 2 and stuff them. And I would suggest you put the wrong sides together to sew up rather than turning it inside out, so that you don't have to flip it back to right side out. So I'll make 2. Next we're going to do our arm area, and we're going to E-wrap cast on 6 pegs, or if you choose you can do a drawstring cast on here, because we will tighten this cast on. Now you're going to knit 6 pegs for 5 rows. Now you're going to drawstring cast off send the needle through all the loops. And you'll want to close off the end and go in and sew up the sides. Now I'm going to go in and tighten my cast on. As I said previously, you can do a drawstring cast on if you want to make this easier if you don't feel comfortable doing this step. Just need it to tighten. Okay, go ahead and sew up the arm. Again, I would suggest you putting your wrong sides together to sew up so that you don't have to flip from one side to the other. Also, you want to make 2 of those. Go ahead and stuff. Now that we have everything, we're going to sew the bottom legs onto the body, and that purled line that we did is where we're going to sew our legs onto. Doesn't matter where because we chose not to make a tail. So go ahead and sew it onto that line, which makes it even and easy to guide on where it needs to be sewn. And then you'll want to tie it off when you're done. And tuck your ends. And you'll want to sew the other leg on the same way. You just want to leave a little space in between. Next, we're going to sew on our arm. And we're going to sew it at the very, very top of the body and lined up with the outer edge of your bottom leg. As you can see, it's lined up. You're going to sew that on. And once you're done with that, go ahead and tie it off. And just shove your ends in there. You want to repeat the same thing on the other side. Sewing the bottom leg and the arm on. Just leave a little space in between the bottom legs. Okay, once you've done that, you're going to sew your head on, and what you're going to do is you want to make sure that the head lines up, the ears line up with the arms on the head, and of course the snout is in between the legs, and the back of the head lines up with the back center of the body. Okay, and then cut your ends, and then you'll want to tuck them in with your crochet hook. The next step is tying a ribbon. It's about 6 inches around the neck and tie a bow. You can skip this part if you'd like. I just think it adds a nice little touch. But it's a 6-inch ribbon in length, and just tie it in a bow. You can cut it longer and trim up. Sometimes that might be easier. Once you're done with that, then you're going to hot glue your rhinestones on, and of course you're going to line it up with the inner ear at the base of the snout. And I have the smallest rhinestones I think you can get, but you can put bigger ones on if you choose. Okay, and once those dry, I usually press them in, and you're done. Look for more to come throughout the year.